Welcome back, my friends, to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I am your host, Wilk Wilkinson, your blue-collar sage, calming outrage and helping to navigate a world divided by fog and those who would spread that fear, outrage, and grievance. Each week, I'm sharing stories from my path and using the power of conversation and collaboration with my many great guests. Together, we chart a course toward understanding, bridging divides, and fostering a community where wisdom prevails over discord. Friends, it really is about bettering the world one attitude at a time. We did not create the hate, but together we can derate the hate. The only good thing about a bad attitude is we have the ability as individuals to change it. For me, it starts with gratitude and personal accountability. I am so incredibly grateful that you have taken the time to join me for another powerful DTH episode. Please remember to subscribe and share the DTH podcast with your network of friends. If you would like to support the show, check out the Support Us page on the D-Rate the Hate website. With that, my friends, let's get to it. Today, I'm excited to introduce Erec Smith, another fellow member of the Board of Advisors at the Pro-Human Foundation and a powerful voice for true empowerment and personal accountability, especially in today's social climate. Erec is a research fellow at the Cato Institute and a former associate professor of rhetoric at York College of Pennsylvania. His work explores how rhetoric influences our perspectives on anti-racism, activism, and the foundations of a free, pluralistic, and civil society. But Erec's reach goes beyond the classroom. He's a co-founder of Free Black Thought, a nonprofit that's challenging the status quo by celebrating viewpoint diversity within Black communities. Through their Journal of Free Black Thought, they share everything from poetry to scholarly work, bringing out the voices of artists, writers, academics, and public intellectuals often overlooked by mainstream media. In today's conversation, Erec and I dig into some critical ideas about personal empowerment and the dangers of a victim narrative. One of Erec's key messages is the importance of choosing to be a victor in our own lives rather than seeing ourselves as victims. He's observed that the victim narrative, while powerful, often breeds resentment rather than resilience, which ultimately disempowers us. We also explore some big questions. What does real equity look like? And can some equity efforts inadvertently lead to more division? Erec shares how outreach programs, when done right, prepare young people with a bridge to navigate and thrive in college, not just to check boxes, but to actually feel empowered. Erec's insights on intrapersonal empowerment really hit home. He believes that the path to civil discourse and to bridging divides is through strengthening the individual first. It's only when we have strong, accountable individuals that we can come together with others to reach common goals and view no group as a monolith. At the heart of Erec's message is this: through personal accountability and a commitment to working together, we can overcome almost anything. Friends, I am certain that you're going to get a lot out of Erec's perspective, so let's get into it with Erec Smith. Hey friends, it's Wilk, and before we get into this week's incredible episode, I would like to tell you about another podcast that you might like from our friends at Braver Angels. A Braver Way with Monica Guzman is a podcast that's about politics, but it's so completely different from any politics show that you've heard. Each episode leaves you with a better understanding of your fellow Americans, even ones who, when you hear about them on the news, totally confound you. Their goal for the current season, which I absolutely love, is to help you face this election year without losing heart. You can find it at braverangels.org/abraverway or by searching A Braver Way wherever you get your podcasts. Friends, I absolutely love this show, and I hope you'll give it a listen. And with that, let's get to this week's episode. Here we go. Erec Smith, thank you so much for joining me here on the D-Rate the Hate podcast, my friend. So good to see you.
See you as well.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I have been I've been looking forward to this. When I found out, well, first of all, this is going to be part of a much bigger series with all of us that sit on the board of advisors for the Pro Human Foundation. When I was graced with the opportunity to become part of this board of advisors, and then saw the people that we're serving with here in this great organization. I saw you on here, and I know we've run in certain circles or in similar circles for quite some time. I knew right then I'm like, yeah, I definitely looking forward to speaking with Erec. So thank you again for being here, Erec.
Got it.
So Erec, I know that you and I have a lot in common in the sense that we think similarly on a lot of different things. Just from the stuff that I've seen you post, you've seen the stuff that I post, and one of the things that always stands out to me that I want to start with is the idea of being a victor in your own story instead of being a victim. That is one of these things that is so incredibly important. I talk about personal accountability, personal responsibility, just being the champion in our own story. So let's start off there, Erec. What does that mean to you, being a victor instead of a victim?
Well, it means having a story that is, I guess, that is undergirded by a positive outlook and positive self-regard. What I mean by that, positive self-regard is not synonymous with self-esteem. All right, you're looking at yourself realistically, the pros and the cons. And, you take those pros and you say, I can do this, and the cons are your challenges. Every story has a challenge. The hero has to confront something. Man versus nature, what have you. Okay, so man versus himself, right? With the your pros and your cons, and you figure out a way to go about that. That's the narrative I have. It's something like that anyway. The victim narrative it sounds like the complete opposite, but there's some power in there as well, right?
Sure.
There's a section in Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra. I picked that up the other day on a whim, and there's a section called the tarantulas, right?
Okay.
And he's talking about the tarantulas are the resentful, victim attitude kind of thing. They're all about tearing down people who are happy and successful, right? And he has this line in that section. He calls it the tyrannical madness of impotence.
Okay, tyrannical madness. Okay.
And that seems to describe what we've been calling woke in the past few years, right? They're tyrannically mad. Actually, some of the translations say tyrant madness, but tyrannical madness, right? This impotence, this lack of power gives them carte blanche to just go after people who they see as powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Whether they actually are or not. So it's the madness of having no power is what Nietzsche was talking about, and he calls them tarantulas for some reason. But yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah. No, this is one of those things that is so dear to my heart because when I look around me, people have heard me talk about the, perpetual, well, both things, right? Perpetual outrage and then the perpetual victim mentality. Because I think that they feed on each other. And when people are conditioned to believe that they are a victim, that their piece of pie is so small because somebody else's piece of pie is so much bigger. It begins this perpetual cycle, because then the person is incapable of believing that they can actually get ahead. And through that, it's the opposite of empowerment. It is the opposite of being able to be the victor in your own story.
Yes, it really is. And a lot of that boils down to what people call positionality. You're in this privileged place and I'm over here, therefore, you should do me a favor or something like that, or you should at least hate yourself or, feel some kind of shame towards yourself about this. It is all about comparing. And if there's a gap there, they're going to manipulate that gap for their own purposes. If they hit the lottery, when I say they, I mean, people who are abiding by civil or social justice ideology, right?
Sure.
Critical social justice, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they hit the lottery for $1 million, but their white neighbor hit it for 1,000,001, that white neighbor is still oppressing them, right?
Oh no.
And if they have $2 to their name, but their white neighbor also has $2 in their name, great. we can both starve equally.
Right.
I mean, it's all about that.
Yeah, and that's that's when the concept of equity comes up. That's one of these things that it's such a hot button issue these days. Whether you're talking about CRT or equity or DEI for is one of these things that it is used so often, in my opinion, or from my experience, it is used as this thing that instead of bringing people together, it does more to promote the us versus them mentality. And like I said, I love the idea of empowerment. I love the intentions behind diversity, equity, inclusion. These words they're beautiful. They sound right. They sound like they make sense. But too often, and this is it, I just had this conversation with her name's Delphia Howes. She's the chief inclusivity officer at a government lab down in Tennessee, but it's one of these things that it's used too often to divide us rather than empower those that need to be empowered. The idea that we need to work for a common or a similar result as opposed to just similar, circumstance or starting from the same footing, and now we've got to work for the same result no matter the effort put in. I think it sets a person up for failure.
Yeah, it does, and it's somewhat delusional as well because it's not natural. You're engineering things so that everybody ends up at the same place. There's nothing organic about that whatsoever. There's nothing realistic about it. Regarding equality and equity, I understand seeing that some people have less than others, and their resources need to be supplemented with other resources and things like that, so that people can start on the same starting line. I get that, and there are ways to do that without a quota system. There are ways to do that without affirmative action. There are ways to do that without getting rid of standardized tests, and we can talk about that later on if you want. But there are ways to do that, and they are foregoing those ways and just saying, let's just get rid of the AP courses so that everybody can be non-AP, or whatever.
Right.
Let's get rid of the GRE so that nobody feels bad for failing, or whatever. They're doing it the wrong way, and there are right ways of doing it.
So let's talk about some of those right ways, Eric, because I think that's where a lot of people get hung up on this is they say, okay, well, if we aren't going to do this, then tell us what we are going to do, because we're not hearing any results that are actually getting us anywhere. But that goes back in my mind to the thing that, well, we've always done it this way, so we're going to keep on doing it this way. No matter whether it works or not, we've got the right intentions. So, Eric, give us some of the things that we can actually do, or the things that actually make sense, not based on intentions, but based on real results.
Okay. Well, the easiest one is outreach programs, immersive outreach programs, where a college will send people to, a high school in a downtrodden area or something like that. And the students are brought to the campus, right? So it's bi-directional. And, either way, the students are getting an immersive experience in some kind of field. Whether they're at their high school or at college, they're being immersed in what it means to be a chemistry major, what it means to be a engineering major or something like that. You're meeting professors, you're meeting students who are majors. right? And you're getting immersed in that culture, because a lot of what happens when students of color enter a college setting first year is culture shock for a lot of people. They're going from a very homogenous and downtrodden place to this very eclectic, more eclectic anyway, right? Place that typically is not downtrodden, and it's reflecting the life of the mind, right? It's all about people, running around trying to educate themselves and things like that. That is an environment that some people aren't used to. So if you get them used to it 3 years before they actually get to the college, then they're going to be a little bit better off. We do have these bridge programs. I don't know if you heard of these. For students of color, what have you, to just bridge them from where they are to the college experience. But that typically starts the summer before freshman year, the summer before the first year. That's too late.
I was just going to say, that's starting the game a little bit late. Right.
You got to do it in high school. I'm thinking 9th or 10th grade, just get it going.
Sure.
So that's the biggest one, and I say it's the biggest one because it's working. There are people who are doing things like this. There's the Hidden Genius program. There's the Take Charge program in Minneapolis.
Yep.
These things are
my
working.
friend Kendall Qualls, right?
Right.
Yep.
That stuff they're doing good work.
Oh, very much so.
There are ways to do this without quota systems and getting rid of tests.
No, and I the idea of a bridge program, again, it's good, but this kind of leads me in thinking, Eric, to a lot of the work that I do, a lot of the work that I know you do, is just the idea of getting people out of their own silos and into groups that they are not familiar with already, right? The idea of helping people acclimate by exposing them to things that are outside of their normal wheelhouse, having conversations with people that they wouldn't normally encounter in their everyday lives. I mean, I think that is so incredibly important. And the earlier we do it in the lives of our children, our teenagers, and things like that, getting them out of that silo is incredibly important.
Yes, it is. And there are ways of getting people out of those silos. There's a sociologist from the middle of the 20th century. I think his name is Mustafa Sharif. And he writes about what he calls superordinate goals. A superordinate goal is a goal that, two disparate groups need, but they can't get it alone. They have to work together, right? So when the focus is the goal and not positionality and not your race or whatever, your sexuality, when the focus is the goal that both groups need, right? The congeniality works itself out. They get to know each other inadvertently, right? They get to realize that this person is just a person like me, They start going out for beers afterwards, and things like that. Study after study shows that this works. You have to have a common cause, a common a goal or something like that. Other than that, and this is my current research right now, I think there are certain characteristic qualities to somebody who is able to participate in civil discourse with people that are different, right? I think there are certain qualities, and surprise, surprise, they're rhetorical in nature. I am a academic focused in rhetorical theory, so obviously, so I'm in my wheelhouse when I talk about these things.
Right.
It doesn't seem like I am, but I am, and I guess there's 6 things altogether that I see as the 6 main characteristics. The first one is overarching, and it overlaps a little bit with what our friend Jason Littlefield is doing with empowered humanity theory. It's called intrapersonal empowerment. And what that means is, not interpersonal, not me and you talking together. Intra, I'm talking to myself.
Intrapersonal, yep.
Yes. How do I talk to myself? How do I interpret the world to myself? There is a niche in my field called internal rhetoric or intrapersonal rhetoric. How we talk to ourselves is very important to set us up for being able to talk to other people. Francis Bacon, when he talked about rhetoric, he defined it as the faculty of applying reason to the imagination for the better moving of the will.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way of saying how do you talk your emotions down so that you can, maintain yourself and say what you need to say and hear what you need to hear and things like that. Bacon was talking about internal rhetoric, right? So having people use this idea to empower themselves, to develop self-awareness, self-management of their emotions, right?
Yes.
To stop projecting on other people, to realize when you are projecting on other people, to realize why you project on other people. All these things, you can call it mindfulness, you can call it self-awareness, things like that. But I get there through internal rhetoric, intrapersonal empowerment. So that's the overarching one. If you have that, you're 90% of the way there, really.
Sure. But yeah, I love the idea of intrapersonal empowerment. It reminds me a lot of going back to the law of attraction, or the way we think about ourselves is going to determine what we manifest in our lives or for our lives. Sure. I think a lot of that is that thing. If we're talking bad about ourselves all the time, we're going to bring bad things upon ourselves. It's just almost natural.
Right. You're going to see the world through a lens that is, filtered negative. You know what I mean?
Right.
There are all kinds of rhetorical terms for that too. I won't get into it.
Right.
But I will remind you, there is a book called Internal Rhetorics. It is a scholarly book, and it's not. You can pick up some books about self-awareness and mindfulness, and they lean woo-woo. You know what I mean by that? Yeah. They lean woo-woo. This is not lean woo-woo. This is a scholarly text on this concept, and I highly recommend it.
Very nice. I'll have to check that out. That's not one that I know about, but I'm obviously the tagline for this podcast, Eric, is bettering the world one attitude at a time, right? And that begins with each one of our own individual mindsets, and part of our own mindset, talk about mindfulness. Part of that is the way we talk to ourselves, the way we think about ourselves. If people have heard me talk about it a lot of times, the reticular activating system. If all we are doing is focusing on the negative within ourselves, within our lives, we are going to seek out points of affirmation for that, and we can only focus on so many things. We're going to be miserable. It's just natural.
Right.
I mean,
right.
That is the deal.
It's common sense, isn't it?
Well, to me it is. And I think, and the fact that it is common sense is so uncommon because people don't get that. But it's amazing how your life can actually change once you realize that one little thing.
And it's also amazing how much people resist it when you bring this up to them. Yeah. They are attached. They are connected to their negative emotionality, know, and I mean, that's another thing that interpersonal empowerment and all kinds of other things can do. I'm working on it. Hopefully in a year, there'll be a book that I can shop around or something like that, but I'm working on that.
Well, I look forward to it because I think it's one of the things that so many people, like I said, so from doing this podcast, Eric, I come across these things all the time in these conversations that I'm like, oh, I just wish and I say it almost every episode, but I'm like, every guest, I'm like, oh, if everybody just knew that, or oh, if everybody just knew that, how much different would the world be if we could just get people to tag on to this thing instead of the negativity online or what we see on the news or what your politician just said about their opponent. If we could just grab onto this and make that our thing today, how much better would the world be?
Right. We got to find a universal superordinate goal, right? That isn't an alien attack. It can't be an alien attack.
No.
That would do it. That would totally do it, but I don't want that. It's something other than that.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, you look at the country, Eric, and you and I are old enough to remember this, but you look at, or at least I think you are. I know I am, but you look at the days following 9/11, right? And the way the country came together, and there was this period of unity where it wasn't us versus them within our shores. It was we were together for a short period of time, but people who are old enough to remember that, I hope that's not the only time within my lifetime I see that, and I hope it doesn't take another horrific event to see it again.
Yeah, that's my fear that it will. I want to do my best to make sure that that doesn't happen. It's not necessary anyway. You know.
Yeah, 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 and I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I think I just had a fantastic conversation the other day, or I don't know. It seems like the other day, but with a gentleman named David Eisner, and I don't. You may be familiar with him. He worked for the Bush administration. He was the head of the National Constitution Center. He also headed up Convergence for a while. He was the CEO of AmeriCorps. But him and I had this conversation, and he's of the belief that we will see a greater sense of unity in our nation again. He's very optimistic about it. It's probably not going to come before the election, and this will come out after the election, this particular conversation. But the idea that there are so many people that are drowned out by the ugliness on both sides of the spectrum. The extremes on both sides get all the airtime, and in our internet ecosystem that so much of us spend time in, the negativity, the ugliness is what gets the clicks. The fear, outrage, and grievance model is what sells the most soap, and he's of the belief, and I hope so too, that this, whether you call it the exhausted majority that's in the middle, or you call them the hopeful majority, as my friend Manu Meal from Bridge USA calls it, that those voices are going to come in a wave and overtake those negative outside edges, the toxic polarity ends of our system. So tell me what you think about that, Eric, because I think there's something to it.
I think the exhausted middle needs to hear and be prompted by consistent messages that say, the extremes are the issues, right? They're getting messages saying either this extreme is bad or this extreme is bad. Nobody's saying these extremes are bad, not enough anyway. I think we need that consistent messaging. You don't just hear it once or twice. You hear it a lot until people start, thinking about it and, looking at the world through that lens and maybe coming to some conclusions about what needs to be done, pointing out these extremes and speaking over them if necessary, right? That's why I'm trying to make civil discourse cool again, man. I want to,
You and me both.
I want a little I don't know, Hasbro toy for kids. It's the marketplace of ideas, kids.
Yep.
You got a little Jimmy idea over here, and I want it all over society. I want to make it cool again. But if it was ever cool, but that's what I want to do. But first, people have to be on board with it, and consistent messaging will help that.
No, absolutely. I think the consistent messaging. That's why I love being part of organizations like Braver Angels, who I've done a lot of work with over the years, and then now being part of our friends at the Pro Human Foundation, and bringing forth that message that it doesn't have to be us versus them. It's we're all humans. We got to find the humanity in each of us, and sit down and have conversations. I think there is the possibility of making civil discourse cool again. To go to your point, I love the idea of, and I push for it in each one of these episodes, You know, whether it be me having a conversation with somebody I am so fully aligned with on so many things like you and I, Eric, or if it's somebody that I completely disagree with, or somewhere in between.
Right.
The idea is to have a civil discussion. Just because it's a contentious topic doesn't not mean it has to be dealt with in a contentious way. And I think the more that we promote that, and the more that we push, shows like this and organizations like Pro Human Foundation, Free Black Thought, the different things that are going on within these organizations, and show people that civil discourse can be cool. But at the end of the day, we feel much better about ourselves. I think we will win this battle.
Okay, I like that attitude. I do.
So tell me, Eric, why? So tell me, when our friends at the Pro Human Foundation, Daryl, Brian, Letitia, when they came to you about becoming a part of the Pro Human Foundation, tell me what drew you to that organization, and what you would like to do as being part of that board of advisors.
Well, I was already part of the first iteration of this when it was part of FAIR.
Yes.
So I was already working in that capacity. Then when things split up, I took a step back a little bit and tried to wait for the dust to settle and things like that. And people started reaching out to me from the Pro Human Foundation, and I started thinking about it again, and eventually I got back into it. I'm just here for them to tap on the shoulder. Hey, Eric, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Hey, you want to write something? You want to do this event? Something. I'm just here.
Yep.
And that's what I do in my capacity as a board member.
Yeah, me too. That's when they came and asked me to be part of it, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? Where do I need to and the beauty of this and the wide range of people that they have on the board is, you're right. It's just, when they come tap you on the shoulder, say, hey, what do you think about this? Or how can we better connect with, whoever, I think it's a beautiful thing. And I think that the work, this being an organization that's primarily based on educating people and showing people, whether it be a better way to engage, or, promoting the opposite of the us versus them thing that is so pervasive within society today. I mean, that's one of those things when I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I would be honored to do something like this.
Yeah. Well, that makes two of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Eric, let's talk a little bit about what you've got going on personally right now. I know you said you're thinking about putting together another book. You've got a couple books out. You're still with the Cato Institute. And then, yeah, let's just talk a little bit more about what you've got going on right now, and the best message that you can share with the DTA's listeners today.
Okay, well, a little over a month ago, I handed in my letter of resignation to York College of PA. Okay. And I am no longer an academic. I'm not a professor. Maybe I'll teach adjunct one day. But I am now I'm splitting my time between Cato and working on Free Black Thought, the nonprofit I co-founded with several other people that, tries to drive home the fact that there is viewpoint diversity within Black America. Right?
Yeah.
I don't even like saying Black America. That sounds too monolithic, but we're trying to do that with the journal and the podcast and the compendium and some other projects, things like that. That's where I am right now. Yes, I am working on a book about some of the ideal characteristics for somebody who is good at civil discourse, somebody who is good at navigating his or her way through civil society. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm working on that at the moment, and I'm just traveling around talking to anybody who will listen.
It's a beautiful thing, man. You've got an incredible message, and I love the organization Free Black Thought. As I said in our pre-conversation, people from the DTH, or people within our DTH listeners will know about our friend Dr. Tavia Lee, our friend Jason Littlefield, as you mentioned earlier in the episode. So many others that do such great work over there, and then the journal, which. I'm glad you brought up the idea of monolithic thought, because that's one of the things that everybody needs to understand. I don't care what the group is. No group is a monolith, and they should never be considered a monolith. I don't care what the group is. I don't care who labeled that group and put them wherever they put them. There's no group as a monolith. We got to keep our minds open to the idea that people are individuals. We're all beautiful human beings, and we can all do incredible things as long as we put our mind to it. The intrapersonal empowerment is a beautiful thing. I love that. I hope people take that out of this this conversation. So much greatness here, Eric. Thank you so much for joining me here on the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I look forward to more. And final thought.
I hope you and I can keep in touch.
Oh, absolutely.
You're cool. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Eric Smith. Have a great day, man. Appreciate you.
You too.
Friends, if there's anything in this episode that provided exceptional value to you, please make sure to hit that share button. Share it with your friends. Share it far and wide. And of course, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe right from our website so you can get the D-Rate the Hate podcast sent to your email inbox every week. So this is Wilk wrapping up for the week, saying get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything that you've got, and remember, it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. If there is something that you would like to share with me, you can catch me on most social media platforms, or you can email me directly, wilk@wilksworld.com. With that, my friends, I am going to back on out of here, and we will catch you next week. Take care.